Welcome, everyone, to this briefing brought to you by the Israel Defense and Security Forum, IDSF. In Hebrew, our name is Abitchonistim. IDSF is the leading Israeli organization advocating for strong national security-oriented policies to guide the state of Israel. We are a movement of more than 20,000 people, including many reserve officers and operators from all branches of the Israel Defense establishment. Thank you, of course, to all of our viewers and supporters for tuning into this briefing. It's a great privilege to be joined right now by the founder and chairman of IDSF, Brigadier General Amir Avivi, for an update on this war. General, what can you share with us?
Yeah, so I want to share that fighting in Gaza continues. Division 98 that is operating in Khan Yunis is continuing with 5 brigades. The work, Khan Yunis brigade is basically destroyed, but of course there are still warehouses, rocket launchers here and there, and terrorists that are operating, and the IDF is all the time updating about killing of more and more terrorists. They are destroying the terrorists in the pace of like 50, 100 a day. It's pretty amazing. I mean, it's something that I think that we're getting like used to everyday war, not really noticing how well our soldiers are performing and operating every day. In the last day, there were also operations in Judea and Samaria with 11 terrorists that were apprehended, and continuous attack in Lebanon, attacking Hezbollah posts. I had a chance yesterday to speak to Israelis who have been evacuated from towns in the north and are in a hotel in Tveria. And I think that unlike what is going on in the south, where the citizens of Israel are coming back to their homes, the government overall said to the citizens in the south, by July, we want to see you all back. The government basically is not going to continue to give economical support for people after July in the south, and rightly so, because we expect by July to be after Rafah, after completing the destruction of Hamas as a governmental and military entity, possibly also bringing back the hostages. And then in the pace where, in the part where we have to clean up the Gaza Strip, this is not a level of danger that requires evacuation of cities or towns. So in the south, people are coming back. Some of them decided to wait until July because the kids are still in education programs, and also because in the south of Gaza, there is fierce fighting still, and we have Rafah, and there's a lot of noise, and it scares the children. So some of them prefer to wait until July. In the north, when I spoke to the people yesterday, it's complicated because we don't have any real news for them, what is going to happen. So it is going to take a long time. One of the things that we talked with the Prime Minister last week when we met with him is the need to tell the citizens what is going to happen, the truth, that the fact that this is going to take half a year, 8 months, maybe a year, and they're going to stay in hotels a long time in the north. We don't know really what will happen. We don't have goals of war. We don't know what will happen from a diplomatic point of view, whether we'll build a coalition, whether the US will show some strength against Hezbollah, whether we are going to war. A lot of uncertainties, which I'm sure that General Cohen will elaborate about. So this is the reality we are facing at the moment. We are sending President Biden a letter of IDSF signed by all our generals stating that pushing forward a Palestinian state will endanger us existentially, and it's also a price to terror. and something that is unacceptable for us. So we're going to explain this from a national security point of view. And I encourage you guys, I don't really talk about donations and things like that, but we would like to really publish in the newspapers, in some of the leading newspapers, our letter to Biden. I think it's important. And this is something that you guys can definitely help us do. And I think that it's very much needed to really get America decision makers know that we, 30,000 Israeli officers and commanders and warriors, were completely against a two-state solution that will endanger Israel, and certainly against talking about anything of the sort at the present. So having said that, Moshe, I would like to give Gershon the opportunity to address the people in the Zoom.
Thank you so much, General Avivi. And just noting what the General said, if any of our viewers are interested in supporting our media campaign and hearing more about our media strategy to get this word out in the US, please, of course, feel free to reach out to me and I'll share my email address in the webinar chat. It's a great privilege to be joined again by Major General Gershon HaKohen, who is a founding member of IDSF, very influential military figure, of course, here in Israel. General, the last time we spoke in late December, you gave a very comprehensive update on the war. Are you able to potentially give us an update now? What has, anything has changed in your mind on the Hezbollah front since we spoke in the end of December? You're on mute. Are you able to unmute yourself?
Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
Perfect. Now we can hear. Yes.
Actually, Hezbollah are just continuing the same strategy. They are trying to be constrained to a limited war, not to arrive to a full potential war. They are aware that in full potential war, they can endanger Tel Aviv and a lot of Israeli important infrastructure, but Beirut will be just in the same destruction like Gaza. They are aware about that. Actually, meanwhile, they succeeded to get in their hands, they have a very important achievement. The fact that they are really keeping the key for solving the problem in the border. 60,000 or maybe 70,000 Israelis are evacuated from their home along the border in villages and cities, and they will not succeed to come back if the situation will not bring a kind of promise that Hezbollah are not ready to launch rockets and anti-tank missiles to destroy their houses and life. So meanwhile, Israel in two options. One of them, due to the American pressure, is that we are waiting to Amos Hochstein, the delegator, United States delegator, sent by President Biden, to bring a kind of agreement for demilitarization in the closed zone near the border. It means it is not really demilitarization because Hezbollah would have been replaced by Lebanese army. It means either way, we will face in the border the manifestation of Lebanese sovereignty, either with Hezbollah or with Lebanese soldiers. But the Israeli approach is to give the Americans and the French the whole chance to try to do the best without bringing that to a war. If they will not succeed, then we will find a necessity to open a war because we cannot allow ourselves that half of the northern area in the Galil will be just empty from residents. So either or, either it will be solved by a kind of agreement or by a war. If it would have been solved by a kind of agreement, still Hezbollah is a very dramatic threat to Israel, even if they will be demanded to locate themselves 10,000 kilometers or even 20 kilometers from the border, yet they are very dangerous. They are very strong military organization. They are a strategic threat to Israel. They are a regional force in the whole region, a pioneer of Iranian system that they built to attack Israel from all directions, and Hezbollah leading that effort. And they are playing a role much more than just being a military organization defending the Lebanese homeland. Not at all. They are playing a role of Iran, regional force. So anyhow, the war even in Gaza, including Hezbollah in the north, and all other fronts, Syria with more than 30,000 militia warriors came from Afghanistan, Iraq, now located in Syria. All of them together are directed by Iran. We are facing a regional warfare. In part, it is also could be considered as a world war, a new world war. It means that Iran, in alliances with Russia, China, and North Korea, and it is a new challenge for Israel. Therefore, in these circumstances, to demand Israel to believe that there is an option for a new Palestinian Authority, what they are calling RPA, they didn't succeed, the American administration, to build something like that in Afghanistan. They didn't succeed to really establish Iraq as a well-formed state. In Iraq, they succeeded to build a democratic regime, but actually only in the front there is a make-believe of a democratic government. Behind, it is all managed by militia forces. The same could happen with a Palestinian Authority. In the front, they will have the whole legitimation of a well-built state, but behind, we will have to struggle with militia, even Iranian militias that will come to stand 15 kilometers from Tel Aviv. Actually, I appreciate the threat, not only as an existential, it is much more dangerous than nuclear bomb in the hands of Iran, because Tel Aviv could be recovered after a nuclear bomb, not to recover with the Palestinian state 15 kilometers from Tel Aviv.
Thank you. I want to ask you a question about this Palestinian state, but I want to go back to Hezbollah first. There hasn't been any meaningful deal with Hezbollah since it was established in 1985. What has changed that there could be an actual diplomatic agreement now? Meaning, you said either diplomacy or war. What hope is there for diplomacy?
The hope is that they are disciples of the concept called El-Mukawama. It was by mistake translated to resistance. It is absolutely not resistance. Resistance, it is like the resistance in France in time of Second World War, after France was just coming to be freed by the Allies, and the resistance had no role anymore. The Hezbollah carry a duty forever, a duty of jihad. Therefore, after 2000 May, that Israel withdrew from all Lebanon according to resolution, United Nations resolution 425, according to the location of border that was directed by the United Nations. they found an excuse to go ahead with the war, speaking about Shab Afar. Now they are speaking about more than 13 points in dispute. Part of them have been included in the Israeli sovereignty in the ceasefire agreement after independence war 1949. Means that they will ever find an excuse to go ahead the war. The idea of al-Muqawma, it means to keep a momentum of permanent warfare. So what they're doing is to squeeze Israel, because Israel and the Americans are thinking like the Israelis are just dreaming to get prosperity, stability, a good time to recover from the war. They are taking agreements as what is called in Arabic hudna. It means a break in the war in order to come again, more ready in a better opportunity.
So if diplomacy is not likely, then what is the breaking point where Israel has to say, this is not working, we need to go to war? Is it the citizens in the north saying enough is enough? Is it an increase in the threat? What needs to happen for an escalation?
Could be, for example, that it was declared by Nasrallah that if the war in Gaza will come to an end, then they will bring an end to the war in the Lebanese border. Another option is that we will find a deadline, because all children that must begin schools next year, September, it means in September 2024, they must direct themselves to the school and to write themselves right now in this month. So in May, June, we will have to realize whether we can reopen life with the education systems in the Lebanese border. Then 1 of September will really declare the end of the war, everyone coming back. If in May, June, July, Israel will realize that no hope to begin the new year of education in 1 of September, it means that we cannot wait anymore.
Okay, that's an interesting timeline. And then in terms of that timeline, would a war in southern Lebanon be longer or shorter than a war in Gaza as we see it?
It could be longer, because Hezbollah was built definitely and intentionally to a very long war. We can push them to Beirut, and yet they have the capability to launch missiles, even precise ammunition missiles, to Tel Aviv. And maybe, this is my anxiety, the Israelis in Tel Aviv will be the first to demand ceasefire.
Now, the last time you joined me on this briefing, you, I believe, mentioned that if Israel were to go to full-scale war with Hezbollah, we would need the U.S. Do you still maintain that position, the involvement of the U.S. in a war with Hezbollah?
Not to be directly involved, but to support us, even in a United Nations, in the Security Council. Because if the Americans will not support the necessity of Israel to go to a war, then without that support, we will miss the international community to support us. It is not easy. Beyond that, Hezbollah and Iran working together. If we will face ourselves engaging not only with Hezbollah, but also with Iran, this will really demand Americans to enter to the arena. Meanwhile, they are making all effort not to do something directly against Iran.
Thank you. Let's go back to talking about Gaza for a moment, if we can. Is a Palestinian state in Gaza a possibility? Not ruled by Hamas, not ruled by the PA, but another entity, if they were to arise. What are your thoughts on a Palestinian-run state in Gaza?
We will have to see, but always we will have to check whether it is coming to be a new Afghanistan or a new Iraq, even if someone very respected like Salam Fayyad, that was a Palestinian Authority Prime Minister, if he gets position in Gaza, he will get all support of the Western countries, but yet it doesn't mean that he will succeed to demolish all terrorism. And immediately, if they will be re-established and rearrange a new threat to Israel, Israel will find a necessity to act directly to destroy it. So we will have to see.
Now, do you believe that even if there were a Palestinian autonomous entity in Gaza, that there would nonetheless still need to be a permanent IDF operational capacity there, as we find in Judea and Samaria? Or can you envision the day where the IDF disengages, so to speak, again from Gaza?
Even in Judea and Samaria, without daily effort of IDF, it will really emerge to be an existential threat like what happened in Gaza. The fact that in Judea and Samaria, we are not suffering from rockets and other weapons is due to the fact that IDF acting there every night, every day. And the Palestinian Authority really not at all succeeding to prevent that. And a lot of new weapon are smuggled from Jordan by Iran to equip Palestinian terrorists in Jenin, Nablus, Tulkarem, etc. So we are actually in a permanent struggle. It is not that peace will come to the region and stability like 1945 in Berlin after unconditional surrender.
Wow, thank you for sharing all of this. Any final words you have for our viewers about how this war is going, what you think we can expect?
First of all, the war is going very good due to thousands of young soldiers, heroes, and young, not only the generation of those who are 20 years old, also 30 years old, 40 years old. They emerge from the people in Israel. They are supported by their families that living in a very huge dramatic anxiety every night about their relatives fighting there, but they are absolutely dedicated. And this dedication, everyone beginning just knowing something to understand about military phenomena, it is a miracle. And we must acknowledge that bravery that succeeded to save Israel.
That's amazing to hear. And it's great, of course, to end on this positive note. So Major General Gershon HaKohen, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for all you are doing to defend the state of Israel. It's a great pleasure to speak with you.
And we are all praying for the full redemption of Israel in the Holy Land.
Amen. Amen.
Tada.
Thank you to all of our viewers for tuning in. And just a quick request from all of our viewers. Many of you in the chat have been sharing your email addresses and your interest in being involved. And we're going to go through the chat after the briefing ends. But if you could email me, that would be great, because the chat just moves and with a lot of people writing in, and it's hard to keep track of everything. So if you want to be involved, you want to get help in the media campaign General Avivi mentioned, feel free, please, to send me an email. With that, I wish everyone a great day. Stay safe, stay strong, be well, and we'll be back with you tomorrow for another briefing, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Take care, everyone.
Thank you very much.